When I stepped out here under these bright lights, facing thousands of eyes staring at me, my heart trembled, not out of fear, but because I wasn't sure if this world still has a place for someone like me, a man who's lost everything, who's walked through the darkest corners of life where light feels like some distant dream. You look at me, maybe you see this long white hair, this silver beard, these eyes clouded from too many tears. Some say I look like a figure from the Bible, but I'm not here to play a part. I'm here to tell you my real story, a man who held his dying son in his arms, who knelt by his mother's side as she slipped away in poverty, who stood in the ashes of a home that was once his whole world. But I'm not here for pity. I'm here to tell you that even though life has torn me apart, I still choose to stand up, to reach out and carry the pain of others, to take every sin, every ounce of suffering in this world onto my shoulders, if it means even one of you can find a shred of happiness. My name's Elias. I'm 72 years old. And in those 72 years, I've learned that life isn't about what it takes from you. It's about what you give when you've got nothing left. Today, I want to share my journey with you, not so you'll cry for me, but so you'll see that even in the darkest times, there's light. And I'm ready to be that light, even if it means burning myself out to show you the way. I was born in a little village where the sun rose every morning like a promise, only to set and take our fragile hopes with it. My dad was a carpenter, my mom a gentlewoman with hands rough from working the fields. We were poor, but we had each other, and that was enough for me to think life was beautiful. When I was 10, my dad had an accident. A big piece of timber fell and crushed his legs. I can still see his face, his eyes foggy with pain, looking at me and saying, "Elias, you gotta be strong, 'cause I can't anymore." He died 2 months later, leaving me and Mom in a house that felt empty, where laughter just stopped. My mom did everything to raise me. She gathered firewood in the forest, sell it in tiny bundles just to buy me a scrap of bread. I remember one freezing winter night, seeing her huddled by a dead fireplace, her hands shaking from hunger. I asked, "Mom, why aren't you eating?" She smiled, brushed my hair back and said, "I'm full, honey. You eat. It's for you. You're my hope." But I knew she was lying. I was 12, old enough to see she was starving herself for me. She died when I was 16, taken by a sickness we couldn't afford to treat. I knelt by her bed, holding her hand, begging her not to leave me. She just whispered, "Elias, live well, help others like I helped you." Those were her last words, and I've carried them in my heart ever since. When I was 25, I found the love of my life, Miriam. She had eyes like stars and a smile that could melt every sorrow I'd ever known. We got married, and soon after, we had a son, Samuel. I'll never forget the day he was born. I held him close, felt his tiny breaths against my chest, and thought, finally, life's smiling at me. But that happiness didn't last. When Samuel was 5, a fire burned our house to the ground. I ran into the flames to save him, but when I found him, he was still, eyes closed, his little hands clutching the wooden doll I'd made him. Miriam screamed, pounding my chest, crying, "Why couldn't you save him?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just held her, and we cried until the sun came up. Miriam never got over it. She drifted away from me, and one day she left. Just a note that said, "Elias, you're a good man, but I can't live with these memories." I didn't blame her. I blame myself for not being strong enough, fast enough to save our family. From then on, I was alone, living among the ruins of my past, with pain as my only companion. But even in my darkest days, I chose to live the way my mom taught me, to help others. I remember once wandering the streets, hungry and exhausted, when I saw a boy, maybe 8 years old, curled up on the roadside, his bare feet scratched and bleeding. He looked up at me, tears in his eyes, and said, "Sir, I'm so hungry. My mom's sick. I don't know what to do." I dug into my pocket, found a stale piece of bread I'd been saving for myself, and handed it to him. "Eat this, kid," I said, "then take me to your mom. I'll help her." We walked to his place, and there she was, lying on a torn blanket, burning with fever, too weak to even open her eyes. I spent my last few coins on medicine, stayed there 3 days, cooking broth, wiping her down, until she woke up. She grabbed my hand, crying, "Thank you. You saved my boy and me." I just smiled and said, "I didn't save anyone. I just did what I had to." Another time, when I was almost 60, I saw a man getting beaten by a crowd for stealing a loaf of bread. He was thin, ragged, his eyes full of despair. The mob yelled, "Beat him to death!" But I stepped in, put myself between him and them, and said, "Stop. If he's guilty, let me take his punishment. Hit me instead, but let him go." They stared, stunned, then walked away. I turned, helped him up, and asked, "Why'd you do it?" He sobbed, "My kid's starving. I had no choice." I took him home, shared the little food I had, and we became friends. He asked me, "Elias, why are you so kind to me?" I told him, "Because I know what it's like to lose everything, and I don't want anyone to face that alone. Look, my life's been one loss after another. I lost my dad, my mom, my son, my wife, even the dreams that once kept my heart warm. But I'm not here to talk about my pain. I'm here to say that if I could take all the hurt, all the sins, all the suffering of this world onto my shoulders, I would. I'd be the one to carry your burdens so you could live, laugh, love without the weight of darkness holding you back. I've got nothing left to give but this broken heart, and it still beats for others. I don't know how much time I've got left, but if I had a choice, I'd spend every last breath bringing light to someone, even just a flicker. I want you to remember that no matter how cruel life gets, there's someone out there willing to sacrifice for you, and today, that's me. I don't want your applause. I want you to walk out of here, hug the people you love, tell them you care, and live a life worth living. Me? I'll keep going, keep carrying the pain so you don't have to. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for giving me this moment to share. And if you think I look like someone from the Bible, well, I'm not him. I'm just Elias, a regular guy with a shattered heart that still chooses love.